So we are getting ready to go on a little bit of a road trip, which means we're going to be away from the property for a few days. And that's kind of got us thinking about, how do you leave your homestead when you're not going to be there to take care of it? Thanks to Blue Eddy, we are giving away an AC180 all-in-one power station on today's video. So make sure you stick around for that.
So if you're watching this on the day that it comes out,
Oh yeah,
chances are
we're already there.
I'm living my dream, one of my bucket list moments that we never thought was going to happen, and I will be at the Sydney Oasis concert screaming my ever-loving mind out.
Literally the evening this video comes out.
So, yay, and all of my friends and family who are so sick of hearing about it, you can all take a shot because that was the new drinking game.
Oh, that's right. Every time Kirsty mentions Oasis, have a drink. So we're going to be away, and that kind of got us thinking about all the aspects of being off your property. Like, we do that on a regular basis, as in we go to the city fortnightly to restock, or, you know, we go to the coast.
I have to travel for work quite
sometimes,
often.
and that's sometimes for a couple of days. That's easy, but this is going to be 5 or 6 days, maybe a week, depending on how we feel.
And a lot for, yeah, it's a bit open-ended, isn't it?
And yeah, there's kind of a lot more that can happen in that time span that we're responsible for. But we were also just talking about what it means to actually set yourself up to be able to get off your property, right?
The last property that we lived at, I mean, it was a bit more complicated because it wasn't just a 100-acre hobby farm that we were managing. It was a tourism operation, and a pretty big one as well. But for a long time, we felt like we couldn't go away because we felt the responsibility was really heavy on our shoulders, and that if we went away, the lie we told ourselves was that if we go away, everything will fall apart.
So we had a great team of people, and I guess we felt comfortable enough to take weekends, but it was probably there that we learned like that hard lesson of you actually have to do more to set yourself up to be able to take time off. And it's actually important to be able to get away.
We developed a phrase before we even moved out here that we've got to get off the farm. Maybe you've moved to your homestead because you want to get away and you don't want to go anywhere and you never want to have to go anywhere ever again. Like, if that's your why, like, more power to you. But for us, we want to be involved in families' lives. We want to go and visit friends. We want to
go to concerts.
Still go to concerts. We still want to have that aspect of our lives when we choose to. And so for us, getting off the farm has become a really important mental break.
Yeah.
And a perspective break, that you just see things differently and you think differently when you're not in it, in the nuts and bolts, in the dust of it every day. It can be a really, really important and healthy thing to do. So don't make the same mistake that we did and tell yourself the lie that you can't possibly leave because, you know, your farm needs you. You need some time away from your farm sometimes as well.
Yeah, and the truth of that is, yes, there are aspects to your homestead, like the systems that you're responsible for, the livestock, animals, and all of that you're responsible for, but you can find solutions to all of that. So that's probably what this video is going to be about. We wanted to just share that perspective, like make it part of your mantra, your routine, whatever, to get off the farm. Use that phrase and understand like the mental health value of that. And then you'll find the means to be able to do it, which we'll share some of that with you in this video as well. So hold on to all that feeds your soul. So of all the systems that you're responsible for on a homestead, and especially when you're off the grid, the two that probably get me the most, and I was going to say like make me the most anxious, but that's up to me to manage that response. But I guess the ones that weigh most heavily on me and that I take the most responsibility for would be water and power. And power more so than water, because almost anybody can figure out the water system. Like at the end of the day, it's pipes and a pump and some storage tanks. But when it comes to power, if you've been the one especially that has set all this up, and there's kind of no one else on site that knows the system as intimately as you, you know, that can kind of weigh on you when you think about being away from it. Now, I feel pretty confident because number one, I set all this up almost 2 years ago and it's been working awesome in that 2 years. That, and I'm hands-on with it daily. I mean, I'm over here checking things, cleaning solar panels, like bug spraying, checking on the shed, monitoring the system. One of the aspects of our system that I think works in our favor is that we went with a DIY system, and that's all that Victron gear back there. I'll talk about the Bluetti stuff in a moment. And this has been pointed out to me in the comments a few times when I've talked about like the likes of these Bluetti all-in-one systems, because these are great if you don't want to have to think about it. But if something were to go wrong with one of the components inside one of these all-in-one systems, there's nothing you could do about that. You'd have to send the whole unit away if you're under warranty, etc., etc. With our Victron system, I mean, we've had this happen. We had one of our major components, our solar charge controller, and you can watch the video about when a frog crawled into that and fried it. It went offline because of that, and we were able to swap it out and kind of do the work ourselves. It does mean that you've got that flexibility with it, but it also means the entire system is your responsibility. But what it also means is that you could opt to add in things like our Serbo GX. And so with the color monitor, of course, our Serbo means that I can dial into this system. I can make some changes to it, I can monitor it more importantly, and I can keep tabs on it while I'm away. Add to that, you can actually add a smart generator to these inverters. So you could set up a wire from here that's basically a relay, so that when a certain parameter, like say battery level, falls below, I don't know, 28%, it fires the relay and starts the generator. I don't have a generator that can do that. So number one, you'd have to have your generator always full of fuel. I imagine there's also a shut-off switch, so if the generator can do that as well, because you don't want it just running. And then, yeah, you'd have to have a generator that can handle that. I don't have that, but that's where these Bluettis have come in for us. And I've got a video coming out shortly about how we've recently expanded that. So I've kind of got tucked away over there a new piece of kit for this Apex 300 that we're using. But the way that I'm using this is, oh, I'm telling a lie because I actually did use the generator the other day. So the plug that normally plugs into the generator, I could also just plug into my Bluetti. And right now I've got about 50% of about 10 kilowatt hours. So I've got about 5 kilowatt hours worth of storage in there. That's huge. That's a quarter of our entire system. Now you'll notice I plugged that in and nothing's happened. The inverter hasn't switched over to what it calls mains power or shore power. And that's because this little AC button isn't switched on. And one of the things I love about this Apex unit is that it's Wi-Fi enabled and I can dial in and monitor it as well. I can switch on that AC switch. And so watch. If I were to do that manually, which I can do over the app, in a second, it's going to pull a little bit of power just as a test, and then my inverter is going to come on and start taking power from this Apex unit. Ready? There you go. I can turn that switch on and off. Now, I don't know if you can see up the top there, but I'm pulling in 2600 watts. I think it can do a little more than that. There we go, 29, 50, 28. It's going to pull almost 3000 watts out of here, and that's telling me that would run for 2 hours. That's awesome. In fact, I don't need to do that right now because I'm at 97% on my batteries. And so again, I could remotely dial into here, turn that off, inverter stops taking power from here, and I just leave it plugged in. And so that's awesome. It's one of the ways that I've been able to set up our power system to not only monitor it remotely, but make subtle changes like that. Like, I don't need that much battery power in my main battery bank. It would be overkill for me, but I occasionally need it on standby. And so having that unit just sitting there means that's pretty much how I'm using it, like a generator. But also, if I needed to use it anywhere else around the property, just pick it up, move it somewhere and use it. So the other major system on our homestead that I feel super responsible for is our water system. Now, one of the best ways to safeguard yourself is just have heaps of storage. We've got 46,000 litres worth of storage, and for us, that's about 3 weeks worth of water. So I really could go away for a couple of weeks easily. But the other thing I've done is automated the pumping of it. So I'm down here at our dam, at our little pump house, and what I've got is a little array of solar panels hooked up to a Bluetti unit, and then that's hooked up to an electric pump. And I want to tell you how I've got that little Bluetti unit working for us, because we're about to give one of these away. So I'll grab this out in just a minute, but I'll show you real quick. I've got an RLEC Wi-Fi power point on there because it's got a timer function in there, programmable. So I've got that set to come on between, I think, 2 and 4. So it pumps for a couple of hours every day, which I know is basically replacement value based on how much water my pump will pump in a 2-hour period. And then I've got my solar panels connected in to my Bluetti, and so every morning when the sun's up, it's topping this unit up to 100%. So let me show you this unit. So this is the Bluetti AC 180, and it's a little powerhouse of a unit. It pretty much lives down here at our pump house, and its main function on our property at the moment is running our pump, but it's a really versatile unit. So you've got a couple of AC outputs, you've got USB outputs, and so you've got DC and AC power, you've got solar panel input, you've got output like cigarette lighter, so you could plug in any kind of accessories that you've got for your car there, and you can even fully recharge it just off of your mains power. So it holds almost 1200 watt hours of battery. For our use down here, our pump is about 600 watts, so that'd be 2 hours of pumping time. But because I've also got it on solar, it's using the solar first and then the battery as well. So actually we've worked out that with our 6 solar panels plugged into it, I can pump for about 4 or 5 hours just with this little unit, and it can do a massive 1800 watts of power. To put that in perspective, one of the most power hungry systems on our homestead would be our espresso machine, and it could run that as well. So how do you get your hands on one of these units? Well, we're giving one away thanks to Bluetti, who have sponsored our channel. And so if you want to go into that competition, there's a link down in the description below. There's a link here on the screen. Give us your email address and we will enter you into that giveaway. I can't remember the exact day we're giving it away. It's on screen right here. And good news, if you're already on our email subscriber list, you have been entered into this competition already, so you don't have to worry about entering that. If you do that, we're just gonna, we'll notice that you're already on the list. So you're already on if you're on our email subscriber list. But if you're not, go ahead and jump on that list, and that will put you in the running to win one of these AC 180 units from Bluetti. Now, the other way that we're automating water around the property is just with simple garden timers. And I don't need to explain these to you, but obviously you can use them to automatically water your lawn, automatically do irrigation for your gardens. This is just a little Holman Bluetooth one. I've got the super complex Holman WX8, so it's a multi-zone, multi-programmable unit up at our gardens doing, different volumes, different timings, depending on the zone that it's watering. This one I've just got set to come on a couple of times a day, and it's providing a couple of functions. It's watering the pigs, so it's filling up their water holes just with an open hose. It's watering our vineyard in the background there, and it's watering our little crop area where we're growing some extra potatoes. And so speaking of pigs, I've got them on an IBC, and it's 1,000 litres. Now I know our pigs are maximum like 50 litres a day, so that's a good 3 weeks again. So I've got that topped all the way up to the top before we go away, but I could also open the valve there. It's got a float control, so it's never going to overfill, and I could just send a few minutes of water in there every day to just replace what the pigs are using. Security is going to be one of those other considerations when you're going away, and this is totally going to be context specific. In fact, it's hardly something we ever think about, and you've probably picked up by now, it's not just me and Kirsty here on the property. We've got friends, we've got family, and so there's a number of people on site. And in fact, in the last almost 2 years since we've been here, there has not been a day where there hasn't been somebody on the property. So we actually don't need to worry too much about security from that point of view. That, and we're pretty far out of town, we're on a one-way street, there's literally only 5 other properties on this street, and we're like the second to last one, and we're getting to know our neighbors. But I will say that, make friends with your neighbors, like be a friendly neighbor, because it's just common sense. It's good in an emergency. Like we literally had these crazy storms the last few days. And so we were able to touch base with each other. You guys all right? You guys need anything? How's your power? There's a few of us that are off grid down this road. And so just get to know your neighbors. It's just common sense. But it also means that security wise, like if a strange car drives down the road because we're almost the last property on the road, there's a bunch of neighbors that are going to notice it first. And I could also just tee up with them if there was going to be nobody else here and say, hey, look, we're away for a couple of days. You mind just doing a drive-by for us? Or, they've got access. Drive in, do a little loop around, just make sure everything's okay. Neighbors are fantastic, so get to know them. And they're probably going to be your first port of call if you need other things like your animals looked after, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. But like I said, we've got people on site all the time. And so that's not really a concern for us, but it is nice to know we've got kind of that backup level of security in just friendly neighbors. The one piece of tech that I will suggest, and it's kind of super obvious and you've seen it by now, just get yourself a camera system. Like these are Swans, and they're magnetic, they're wireless, they've got an app. They're kind of, I was going to say they're cheap, but don't go too cheap. Don't go Temu cameras. Get something good quality. Those are HD. You can get Ultra HD now. They all store their footage in the cloud now, so don't get a system that stores the footage locally. That's just dumb. And so they've got alerts. Some of them have got facial recognition now so that you can kind of weed out the people that you already know, and it only alerts you when it spots someone it doesn't know. It's going to do motion alert. These ones do motion alert. These ones do night vision. They all do that. And look, they're not very expensive compared to just protecting your property and giving you peace of mind. So put a camera system on your property. They're pretty easy to set up. All right, let's talk about livestock. Now, in terms of your livestock, again, it's going to be context specific and what you've got. I mean, we've got dogs, cats, chickens, pigs, bees. I suppose bees don't really need looking in on, but each of those animals has a different level of care required. And some of those things you could automate. Water is definitely the easiest one to automate. And the easiest obvious example of that is a water trough. It's just hooked up to a constant supply of water and it's got a float control valve in it. For our big chicken coop, I've got a barrel waterer that I built and it's got about a week's worth of water in it. These chickens have got about 2 days worth of water, so that's going to need a bit more care and attention. But chickens is one of those animals that I can pre-feed because they can't easily overeat. Due to the way that they digest food through their craw or their crop, they need to kind of process that food slowly. And so I've made a really simple chicken feeder just out of PVC pipe. I've got a length of PVC. At the bottom, I've got a T so that 2 chickens can feed from it at a time. And then I've just got a 45 and then a 45, and that stops the rain getting in. I'll show you exactly how it works. And I can fill that up with about 4 or 5 days worth of food for this little flock of chickens. Now with my pigs, I'm not going to be able to do that. If I gave them a week's worth of food, they would eat it in the first day. So there are automated systems that will dose out feed on a daily basis, but it's going to depend on your needs. I don't go away often enough to justify something like that. I'm sure I could DIY something, but again, this is where like a farm sitter, homestead sitter, a neighbor, or who else lives on site is going to be able to help you out. And that's exactly how we're doing it. So the kids will feed the pigs, chooks, cats and dogs for us, and I'm sure the bees will take care of themselves. I hope you found that really useful and just kind of practical, and maybe a little bit inspiration as well to think about how you can automate some of the things on your farm and really set yourself up to be able to, as Cassie says, get off the farm every now and then.
See you next time.
Coloring outside the lines, and you tell me you're just passing by, drowning in your reasons why. Talk is cheaper.